Hey guys, welcome back to the Dirt Fishing Dad YouTube channel. My name's Dan, and as you may or may not know, I'm in the middle of a little bit of a saga with a Camillus Barlow. The last video, I restored the snap successfully and just was able to dry fit the knife and make it snap. So in this video coming up today, I'll be rehandling, and I will definitely run into some issues. But we successfully handled those. I apologize in advance for the length of the video. I felt like in the pinning or restoring the snap video that I left out a lot of stuff off of video, did a lot of stuff off camera. So if anyone has any hints, better ways of doing things, I'm way open to any suggestions because I am just a rookie. Just starting out. I don't have very many power tools or anything like that, any of the toys like some of these guys on YouTube have. But roast me in the comments. Let me know. I'm a big boy, I could take it. I would like to eventually get proficient enough to do some rehandling on some other knives. I've got a case tested tadpole here that was, it was the celluloid handle was outgassing. I just stripped it off real quick, cleaned it up. I want to rehandle that one. I've got a little Holly gentleman's knife. I don't know if you can see that tank stamp. It's a Holly. Anyway, it's a whittler pattern. Got the wedge, and I got another whittler here that I'd like to rehandle. This is just the USA, but those whittler patterns are so cool, that big fat blade there. Well, anyway, enjoy the video. Like I said, roast me in the comments. I apologize for the length of the video, but I try to put everything in, even the mistakes. So hopefully somebody can learn something, or we can all learn together. Thanks for joining me. All right, so you may have watched the other video on this Camillus Barlow. It was a flea pick, got it for $2, didn't have handles on it. Also had no snap on the blade. I did remedy that. Hopefully it'll snap the same when I get it all rehandled and put back together. But I did remedy the snap, so now we got to put some handles on there. I do have some selections here. We'll go over. I do have this red bone. I have two selections of red bone here. I think this will be a little too thin. I don't know. It might be perfect. I don't know. But I think I'm gonna not go with either of these. Sorry about that. This is some really nice bone. Got the big old jigs in it, or jigging in it. It's super nice. I also have this stag antler here that I could use, but with what I have picked out for a badge, I think that will look not quite right. I also have this smooth camel bone here, which I've used on another knife. I have rehandled another Barlow. I always start with the cheap knives. I'm just, like I said, I'm no expert. I'm just learning. I have used this before, but I wanted to try something else. Yeah, I did rehandle this Cutmaster Barlow. Like I said, it's just a cheap knife, had cheap plastic handles on there. 2 pins, very easy, doesn't have any other pins to worry about. I did an okay job, I think. I don't know, probably not, but anyway, the only mistake I made was this on this last pin. As I was pinning that last pin, maybe I got a little impatient, but I cracked the bone. I leave it like that and put it on the shelf as a reminder never to do that again. I spoke with very nice gentleman who gave me his time, and he said to remedy that, drill the holes in the bone just slightly bigger than your pins, just very, very slightly, and also chamfer or countersink the surface of your bone to keep that from cracking. Yeah, I think this is what I'm going with for this knife. It's some sort of resin that they've warm grooved to make look like warm grooved bone, I guess, but it's just plastic. I think I can get 2 scales out of like half of it, and save the other part for another project if I have another project. Yeah, here is my idea for a badge. This is a 30-30 shell casing. I know you guys have probably seen this done before, but you just cut this super narrow, cut it right there at the rim, and I will countersink that into the drill hole and countersink that into the scale. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna just CA glue it or if I'm actually gonna pin it on there. I think I'll pin it and glue it. I don't know. We'll make it as complicated and as we can to make it more challenging. All right, stay tuned for the adventure. All right, so just to show you what I'm doing, I just pinned these on here because I can't hold them and hold the handle at the same time. I just got them clamped on there with some clamps, but I'm trying to show you what I'm doing here. I'm trying to get 2 pieces out of this pretty wide piece of, I think this might be actually bone of some sort. I did start cutting it, but yeah. So I'll unclamp this and maybe unclamp this one. All right, so there's enough room to get a blade in between there, hopefully. I'm gonna take these off to cut it, but I'm gonna have to do some hafting. You see it's pretty thick, so I'm gonna cut those here in a second. All right, like I said in my intro video, this channel is blue collar. I don't have any fancy tools. I don't own a bandsaw, skill saw, jigsaw, any of that stuff. So we're gonna be doing this with mostly hand tools. I do have some power tools, but I am going to be cutting this slab here with a hacksaw. Feel free to roast me in the comments. All right, let's do it. All right, as you can see, I need to get some rubber jaws for my vise. I'm just using some rags. Like I said, blue collar. All right, I got my slabs cut out. I'm not the best with a hacksaw. As you can see, a little bit of a unstraightened line there, but I got enough room, I think, to make it work. We are going to, this resin is extremely smooth, so I'm gonna have to do a little rough sanding with some heavy sandpaper, rough this up. I'm gonna rough this liner up too, so that when I epoxy this together, there's a good mating surface for that epoxy to stick to. Then we'll drill these out. This is a pin to hold bone, and these are the each of the pins for the springs. I am going to, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna drill a hole probably right about here for this badge that I have planned, this 30-30 shell casing. Although, with that primer dented like that, it's probably gonna be a little hard to peen over that brass pin. So I might just glue it in there with some CA glue. That's a nice background, isn't it? Kayak, which I never use, of course, I'm in Tucson. And the shop broom. Anyway, I do have some power tools. I'm gonna whack this rim of this 30-30 shell casing off with this Dremel. This is probably gonna be hot. Woo! Yep. Probably gonna have to grind that down a little bit. Make it a little flat, or thinner, I should say, thinner. All right, I got that ground down. I'm sure there's a better way. Let me know in the comments. But I think that's gonna look all right. When I first put this on here, I was worried about the thinness of what's gonna be the thinness of the handle. Actually, it's gonna be down here. The thinness of the handle on each side of that shell casing. Because it's pretty thin over here and then it's thin over here. I don't want the handle to break, but the handle's resin. It's resin, so it should hold up. We're gonna do some hafting on this, like I said, and match this up with the bolsters, like the thickness. I'm gonna have to do that in the daylight, and when my neighbors are awake and my wife's still sleeping. It's well, it's 6 o'clock, but I've been up since like 4. I have insomnia, what can I say? All right, we're gonna do a little hafting now and try and put a little angle on there so the end of that scale, or the scale where it butts up against the bolster, will be kind of flush. I don't know, makes it look a little better. Looks all right. I think we'll do some final sanding once we pin and glue them. All right, let's go to gluing. All right, just cleaning these scales off with a little acetone. Make sure all the sandpaper and everything is cleaned off. I'll do the same thing with the liners that I've already scuffed up with some sandpaper. Then we'll get to our epoxy and glue these suckers on. That's probably way, way, way too much. Probably should be wearing gloves for this. That's all right. Got to make sure it's centered on the slab. And we'll clamp it. All right, it's 24 hours after I glued, and we're already have drilled this piece of the handle, this side anyway. As you can see, there's a little pinhole for a brass pin to hold the handle on. There's the spring hole and the other spring hole on the back. I'm gonna show you how I did that. Hopefully you can see that on camera. First I'm gonna drill with this smaller drill bit, and then we'll drill from the other side with a larger drill bit. Now this bit did not hit the sides of that brass liner at all. We're gonna take that one out. Oh boy, where'd that go? And we're gonna put a slightly larger drill bit. And we'll drill from the other side, taking care. This handle is softer than the brass, obviously, so we're gonna come from this side, and then we're gonna stop when it gets to the brass. It's like a tactile feel thing. There we go. Back it out. Same thing with that one. Yep. All right, we'll do a test fit of our pin that we have spun down. Perfect. We're gonna do a little final finish work. I don't know, really do not know what this handle is. It's some sort of plastic resin, I think, or maybe horn. I've never worked with horn or rehandled with horn before. Does it chip off like that in chunks? I don't know. Anyway, we'll do a little bit of a final prep. I'm just gonna sand those little chips off, and then we'll put the knife together and do it like a dry fit. All right, here's the knife. I've just got the pins in there, dry fitted. Yeah, I think it's gonna be all right. Of course, I can't get to that pen blade because the handles need to be sanded down a little bit, but I think it's gonna be all right. I gotta get some smaller pins there, spin some smaller pins down so I can peen that before I actually put it back together on both sides. And then we'll be back to try and install that 30-30 shell casing against that black. I don't know, I think it'll look all right once I get everything polished up, and or it might look horrible, but it is what it is at this point. This is just a big experiment. All right, we'll be back. All right, guys, we spun our pin down. You can see it's going through both sides of the handle. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clip this off. Right about there. And the pin flew out. Put it back in here. And then we'll file that flat. I'm going to put this in the vise. We'll file that flat and peen over this head, keeping this in the vise. I'll take you over to the vise. All right, I'm going to file this flat. Perfect. Now I'm going to peen that over, hopefully, into that hole. Yeah, I think this handle material is pretty durable. Well, that looks like garbage. Hot garbage. We'll see what we can do with that. I think I can fix that. All right, guys. We took it from hot garbage to just garbage. I think with a little sanding and finish work, that'll look okay. All right, I'm gonna cut this side. I'm gonna file it flat, and then I'm gonna put a little notch in there so that'll flare out. I'll show you in a second. All right, guys, I'm gonna cut this. That piece doesn't fly. And as you might be able to see, there's a, it's not very flat. So I'm gonna file that flat with this. Probably a little bit more. I think it's a little bit long. All right, it's flat. Not sure if you can see that. Yeah, it's flat. So what I'm gonna do is file a notch in the center of it with this broken triangle file. All right, and now I'm going to peen this hopefully flat against that liner. Kind of mushrooming that out. All right, now that handle is epoxied as well as pinned on there. These pins will also hold the handle on as well when we get that finished. All right, I'm gonna do the other handle with this smaller pin, and we'll be back to put the larger pins in and put it together and sand it all down. All right, guys, we spun our pin down. We placed it through the handle into the liner. I just clamped that pin in there like that. When I cut it off, it had a little bit of a point on the end. I just filed it flat, like so. I'm gonna file a notch in it in the center. This triangle file. It'll help it, that little notch in the center will help it spread out against that liner. And I gotta go get my hammer, ball peen hammer. Be right back. All right, we're back. Let's see here. Yep, we're back. Just gonna peen that over gently, gently. I just want it to mushroom out against the liner. All right, that is okay. Probably a little bit much sticking out there, just because when the blades come down like that, you don't want that blade to hit that pin there. So I'll probably do a little sanding and fix that up. All right, we're gonna cut this one and file it flat as well, and then we'll peen that side over. All right, guys, there it is. My hammered pin. It's holding that handle on there, as well as it's epoxied, so it's hopefully not going anywhere for a long time. Or maybe we might just grind it off and start over. Who knows? We'll see. All right, we got her together. I got to do some peening, flattening and peening of these pins. I got to clip this one shorter, but I think it's gonna look all right. We got snap. I can't reach that pin blade, but I'm sure it has snap. I will double check that off camera, but yeah. Once we get this peened, I'm going to get a router, or not a router. We're gonna Dremel out a little circle there for that 30-30 shell casing, and we'll put it in there. And then we'll do our final sanding on our handles. All right. All right, we got our handles peened on. We're just gonna do a little sanding here. Probably cut that one a little long. Didn't mushroom it out enough. I'll sand that off though. Probably created more work for myself, but that's all right. Oh, what the heck? It was just snapping. It just needs to get worked in a little bit. All right, guys, it's been like 4 or 5 days since I've touched this knife because, as you can see from the last clip, we had a major league fail. So when I was peening this knife back together, this pen blade here had a lot of side-to-side play. So I took the spacer out that I was using to put in between the blade and the liner, using that spacer to peen over the pins, create some space for that blade. So I took the spacer out and I peened it over a little bit more, which that looks like crap, but I was gonna sand it down even. Hopefully it'll disappear. But now this pen blade does not snap. It's probably just a little bit too tight. And also this main blade barely has any snap, and it moves like crazy in there. So, oh yeah, it's too much wobble. Too much wobble. I'm afraid if I peen anymore, it's just going to get worse. The snap is just going to get worse. So what I noticed is that these springs, I don't know if you can see that there, are sunken in. So I think I need to regrind or grind these pins off and punch them out, spin some pins and repin at least that middle. I'll try that first. If that doesn't work, I'll repin the back, and I'm definitely going to repin this front. So I'll be back when I get that done. All right. Not finished. Still got to do some sanding here on the pin, make it disappear. Same thing with this side. Painting pins in the valley of this really deep grooves is, I'll say, difficult. But it snaps. Both blades snap. So gotta do a lot of finish work, and I'm gonna try and put that badge in there. We'll see how it goes. All right, we're to the point where I'm probably done with the finish work. Not completely done, but stupid me. That pin will never disappear because I believe I didn't check, but the bolsters are steel, and that is a nickel silver pin. Not perfect, obviously, but smooth, smooth, smooth. And to get these pins mushroomed out in the bottom of that worm groove is a nightmare. Lesson learned. Huge lesson learned. But the brass pins, they didn't turn out terrible, but they could definitely be better. See, that one's not even round. It's so hard to get in there. The blade has plenty of snap. Same with the pin. All right, I'm at the point I'm going to put that badge on. Finally. I'll put it on, and I'll come back and explain how I did it. All right, guys, a little change of plans here. So this, if I put this, countersink that into there, because of these ridges, I would have to go down to there to make it flush with that ridge. So I am not willing to go that deep into that handle. I was going to put something else in there. I have a little tiny American flag. It's like a gram of silver that I was going to put in there. But I was like, I'll just leave it. It's just a Barlow, for Pete's sakes. So I'd say I'm done with this knife. I might do a little final sanding. Like I said, these pins were a mother to get peened over, and that one's not too bad. But this one, still, I need to do a little sanding on that one. Get that smoothed over. That one's not bad. This isn't bad. Oh, it's got a sharp edge there. I gotta do some sanding on there. And like I said, the bolsters are steel, and that pin is silver nickel. It's smooth, can't feel it, but you're gonna see it. But like I said, this is just a user, so it's got plenty of snap. Mission accomplished there. Both the pen blade, like I said, is worn. No big deal. It's just a user. Yeah. From piece of junk, $2 flea market pick to a user. The blades are even somewhat centered in there. What do you know? Anyway, not bad for a rookie or a novice, journeyman, whatever. I'm definitely not an expert. All right, thanks for joining me on this little adventure on this Barlow. Thanks. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I know everyone's time is precious. Thank you.